Welcome back to Littles by Lira. Let's make a sleigh and some reindeer today. To begin, you're going to need the Popsicle paint stir sticks from Home Depot. You'll only need 2 of them, and you're going to boil them for 10 minutes. When that is done, you are going to get a towel and place it on there just until it's cool enough to handle. And then taking 2 round objects, I use 2 spice bottles or spice jars. You are going to roll just the end of that paint stir stick around the end. I use some masking tape to hold it in place, and you're going to use a fair amount, so make sure you have plenty of masking tape on hand. And you're just going to wrap it around so that you'll get the snow sled portion of the sleigh. You'll do 2 of these, as I said, and you're just going to set them off to the side to dry. I let mine dry overnight, roughly 12 hours. When that is complete, we will move on to the next step of the process. Next, I took one of these little bathtubs from the Dollar Tree and some just spray matte varnish to give it a little bit of texture so that I could paint it with the Waverly chalk paint in crimson. It took about 4 coats to get full coverage. Of course, let it dry in between coats. Next, I took some royal gold from FolkArt. It is metallic. And I'm going to paint the little faucet and handles, which kind of look like flowers or snowflakes to me, in gold. I'm also going to paint around the rim of the bathtub and down at the bottom, the, foot portion, I'm going to paint that gold as well. This is to give it a festive Santa-y look. Now, if you are not a fan of the red and gold, you can do green and gold, or blue and silver, or blue and white, or whatever strikes your fancy. I'm just going with some traditional colors here, and so here we are. Once you get that done, we will move on to the next step. Once the portions of your sleigh are painted gold or whatever color you choose, set that off to the side to dry, and now we're going to work on the runners of the sleigh. You see here, I just rubber banded them together for the evening. That was to make sure a furry friend of mine didn't try and run off with my paint stir popsicle sticks. Go ahead and take the rubber bands off if you use them and remove them. The paint stirrers from the spice bottles. You can discard the tape. And I went ahead and just painted them gold. If everything worked out well, they should be nice and curved on one end. Next, taking some Jenga blocks. Yes, I actually found some from the Dollar Tree, or tumbling tower blocks. I'm going to paint those gold as well. Once I finish painting them gold, I will set them aside and let them dry. Now, I have these 2 little metallic reindeer from Walmart. I got them last year, but they've been out every year for like the last 5 years, so I'm guessing they'll probably be back again this year. And I am taking the hanger portion off the top and removing the little scarves from both of the reindeer. They're just hot glued on there. They're fairly easy to get off. Once I have the little scarves removed, I'm going to take some more of that matte spray and just give them a quick coat so that my paint will adhere. I'm using Hazelnut by Waverly, but you could probably use Fawn by Waverly chalk paint. It would probably match a little better for a deer color, but I'm using what I have. I began by just taking a small paintbrush and painting around the eye portions of the deer, and then I give the whole rest of the body, I want to say I gave them maybe 2.5 coats to get full coverage over that metallic look. The reason that I am leaving the eye portion empty is I'm going to just paint over it again. My hand isn't the steadiest, and from time to time I will bump into the eye portion of the deer with the brown paint. But as you can see, even after the first coat, Waverly chalk paint is amazing, and it looks really good. Now, I took some of this acrylic apple barrel paint in the color white, and I'm going to do the eye portions. You can use chalk paint if you want, but acrylic paint tends to have a slightly glossy finish, and since the eyes of, well, pretty much everything are glossy, I decided to use that. It's a nice counterbalance with the Hazelnut matte finish chalk paint. Here I just took a very fine tip paintbrush and just outlined the eye, then filled in the white until I had full or mostly full coverage. We are going to take black apple barrel craft paint. I think it was jet black that I used, and we're going to do the pupil, and then we'll come back with the white to do the little glimmers of the like the highlights in the eyes. And as you can see here, I am taking just a little bit of that white and following the indentations on the body of the deer. I'm just painting in the little white dots. I don't know, deer freckles? That's what I'm calling them, deer freckles. They probably have a real name, but I think deer freckle is adorable. So I'm just going to paint those in on both sides. Again, just follow what was left with the body. Now, I didn't pull the little stopper out of the top of the deer's head because I wanted to give him, I knew I was going to give him a little bit of white on the top of his head, and that gave some extra texture, which I thought was a nice look for my deer. If you want, pull the stopper out altogether, put a little bit of wood filler or spackling in the top, and just paint the whole deer and leave that part brown if you want to. Next, I'm going to take a little more of the white paint and paint the ruff on the front of the deer. I'm guessing it's called a ruff. If you know, if it's different, leave me a message in the comments. Here, I am taking that black paint once the white has dried, and I'm just going to grab my little deer and paint as close to a good circle as I can. Irises are circular, but stylize your deer if you want. And if you want your deer to have blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes, purple eyes, whatever you like, do that. You don't have to paint them black. This is just an idea for you. But here you see, I'm just going to go. I turn the deer facing me so that I can try and get the eyes pointed in the same direction, because a wall-eyed deer would look just a little bit bizarre. And here we are, taken care of. Next, taking a little bit of the black, I color in his nose. And finally, I'll just dip the end of that small paintbrush into the white and give a little highlight in each of the eyes. I think a little red nose, if you wanted to, would be cute, but I'm not sure who these deer are. Maybe they're Blitzen and Vixen, or I don't know. I don't know my reindeer, guys. I apologize. For as much as I love Christmas, you'd think I would, but I don't. Anyway, once they're done, I set them off to the side to completely dry, and I take a little bit of hot glue, and I glue those Jenga blocks on the bottom of the sleigh. Now, this is, I'm taking the outside edge and trying to line it up where those little curves are from underneath the foot part of the tub to try and make them, not poke out of the sides. And seem to work fairly well. If you want a permanent hold though, I would suggest sanding off a little bit of that paint and sand a little bit of the sleigh itself, or bathtub, whatever you want to call it, and use some E6000. But for me, the Sure Bonder hot glue seemed to work just fine for me. Next, I lined up the runners of the sleigh on the bottom, and I just marked a little bit where I want the front of the, how far I want the curve of the runners to go out in front of the sleigh. When you do this, the high part of the sleigh is the back and the low part is the front. So I just put the sleigh down, and then wherever the Jenga block hit, I made a mark on one of the runners, held them side by side, matching them up at the back, and made another little mark. And here I'm just hot gluing them into place underneath the sleigh. The runner will come out a little bit on the side, but that's fine because this thing has to go through North Pole snow, and apparently that stuff is super thick. Next, I'm going to take my deer, and pretty much I'm just going to glue the shoulder to the flank of the deer so they stand side by side. These don't want to stand up by themselves, but when you glue them together, then, there's enough of a footprint where they won't fall over. Then I'll just run a little bead of hot glue in between the deer for some extra hold. And there you go. You can use this to hold Christmas cards. You can put little tiny gifts in there to keep them from getting lost. And it's just adorable decor. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.